It's good.
What's that?
This is a,
Microphone?
yeah, yep, close distance, just a little bit very sound. This is probably not gonna sound that very well.
Did I sound-
HVAC.
Is there a waiver actually signed?
Is there a
I'm
website?
just kidding.
Alright, I didn't introduce myself. My name's Rhode Babington. I'm the network system administrator here at Gloucester Regional Schools. Probably not all you guys have seen me. I haven't been around for a super long time in the space. But yeah, we're gonna give you a brief introduction of PRTG Network Monitor today for the OSHEAN Road Show. So, what is PRTG? PRTG is a network monitor that is coded in Delphi. It runs primarily on Windows, in fact, nothing else. So it can run on Windows 10, it can run on Windows Server 11, anything that you choose. It is very similar to SolarWinds Orion, if you guys are familiar with that as well. It's meant to monitor switches, routers, servers, applications, anything with an IP address, it can monitor it right along. Alright, so why would you choose PRTG for your network monitor? It is a really low barrier to entry. I'm going to convince you all here that PRTG is probably the easiest network monitor to install and configure, bar none. Okay? So it is a very low barrier to entry in installation. You get a lot of instant value out of this monitor. Again, a lot of people run it. I know that it's unfortunate Jim Last couldn't make it. He's installed PRTG in a bunch of different places. It actually turns into firmware after a 30-day trial, so you can have up to 100 sensors for free. But we're going to go into the financing a little bit later in the presentation. All right, the target customer. Right, you're not looking for a syslog server. I know Brian kind of mentioned syslog servers in our previous OSHEAN outing. I think he mentioned Kiwi as an option. PRTG is not a syslog server. It has syslog functions, but it's not meant to give such an exhaustive look into the environment. It's not really meant for that. It's meant to kind of be a tip of the spear, primarily reactive monitoring, but it can be proactive as well. And we'll go into that in future slides. So, and it's really important to use a network monitor to start creating these things, SLAs, to make sure that either your internal devices, your internal network servers, applications are up for a certain amount of time throughout the year. You can start to create those and uphold them. Even public things, just because you have an internal network monitor that's monitoring your internal stuff, doesn't mean that you can't monitor things out on the internet. If your server is up and running, there's no reason though you can't do that. And yeah, we want to keep our network infrastructure on a tip of the spear, but not quite literally, or else you might rip your Cisco switches, right? So who has UPSs in the room? Everybody should raise their hand, right? Everybody has UPSs. Whether you have APC, CyberPower, there's a bunch of different brands. I think even Dell resells APC occasionally as well. So we're going to go into a little bit of reactive and then kind of blend into proactive monitoring here. This is just one sensor on the PRTG core server. So this actually interfaces with the APC management card, network management card, or NMC on the back of your UPS that can just take our Ethernet cable and plug into your network. From just this one sensor, you can see the input voltage into the UPS, you can see the output voltage, you can see the battery temperature, you could even see the runtime remaining on the UPS, which is really great because I'm sure a lot of you guys have tried to load up your UPSs and get them to a really high level. Oh shoot, my UPS is overloaded, my runtime is under 5 minutes. You can actually set alerts to tell you the health of that battery. So really, really great. But this is a really big question. Has anybody had a UPS fail in their environment and not be able to output voltage to your equipment, causing your switches and network to go down? So everybody, again, a lot of people should raise their hands, especially the new APC stuff. It's not that great. We all know that the quality has definitely gone downhill since they've been acquired. So it's really, really great to do some proactive monitoring. So obviously, everybody has had a UPS fail, right? P06, in case anybody is unfamiliar, is a relay failure for an APC UPS. This actually happened at Pontiac Middle School, and it made our upper floor IDF closet completely lose power. So just an example of that. But that same health sensor that I was showing you guys earlier has a ton of different information in it. But what's really, really important, right? We want to know when something goes down. So we want to react to something going down from PRTG. But at the same time, we want to be able to know that something is not healthy in the environment and get to it before it impacts teaching environment. That's the big thing. It's fine if something goes down at 3 a.m. in the morning and it comes back up the next day, we're all set. But we want to ensure that our devices are up during the day. So this sensor will actually turn yellow right here and give a warning status if the last self-test that your UPS did failed. So again, if it fails to self-test in the middle of the night, that's really great. Your switch restarts, whatever your uptime gets reset on the switch. But ultimately, hey, there might be something wrong with IDF 365A. There might be something wrong with this UPS because it just failed its last self-test. So again, kind of blending that reactive to proactive monitoring, saying, hey, I should probably go take a look at that faucet. So that's a pretty nice one. Uptime sensors. PRTG, this is another example of reactive to proactive monitoring, right? We want to know when our core infrastructure restarts or has some kind of instability. Through SNMP, Simple Network Monitoring Protocol, we can connect to Cisco switches, Windows servers, FortiGate firewalls if you wanted to, and actually monitor your uptime on all of your infrastructure. And we can actually generate reports as well. We'll go into reporting in a little bit. But again, really, really important to service the things that have lower uptime yet.
What did you do? So did you have to go to all the devices and set the passwords for all of them to be the same as the SNMP, or?
Yes, you set a community string and make it phone home to the core server, yeah.
You did that as part of this proactive out the gate?
Yes, so with Windows Server, it's a little bit different. You can configure it, but with a Cisco switch, it's literally just a one-line, guys. You just drop it into the configuration and give it the community string that you're using. In this case, it's PRTG. Everyone came up with that name. And then the IP address of the server, which is 10.100.0.120. So just those are the only couple of things that we need to do. It's just the one line command and the switch, and you can add the switch into PRTG and ready to go. Does anybody else have any questions about that?
I mean, it also uses RMON, so we actually use heavily in Western public schools.
Yep.
RMON, we have HP Covert, and it brings everything over. The only thing it doesn't bring over is PAD status.
Okay.
But,
Yeah, that's another conversation. We'll go into that in a little bit as well. We're primarily a Cisco environment here, so I kind of focused things on the Cisco side. DNS sensor. This is a really great sensor. It's very easy to configure. A lot of you guys have Windows Server in your environment, right? You're running DNS, you're running Active Directory, I would hope most of you. So you can actually configure these DNS sensors on your core server to send a DNS request to that server in a specific location. And in doing that, you can check your internet connectivity and performance at those different locations without having a localized core server at every location. So you can kind of expand your monitoring domain without creating a ton of different servers. And they're really easy to configure. You can see we've created a couple here. I can't use my laser pointer because it's a Promethean. We installed a couple of different sensors here to monitor just some core domains that we want to see how well our DNS servers can resolve them and the latency and everything like that. We'll go into that a little bit more in the next slides here. So port monitoring. You can monitor any TCP/UDP port you want with PRTG. It works really quite great. A really great example of this is our network video recorder that we use at Pontiac High School. It runs on a really funky port. It runs on port 5009 TCP. I can actually monitor that and ensure that we can view footage from the NVR. And I'm always constantly monitoring with PRTG, which is really quite great. So yeah, if you've got SIP trunks in your environment, you want to monitor SIP traffic going through that. You want to make sure it's always available. In case your phone server stops working, you immediately know, hey, it's the SIP trunk. It got unplugged. It's in this closet somewhere. So again, you can monitor any port protocol you want with PRTG. Anything that's worth monitoring. Switch monitoring. So this is we're going to get into just Cisco switch monitoring, but again, HP, Aruba, everything like that. PRTG has different sensor libraries for your different model of switch. I think Cisco is probably the most comprehensive if you're a Cisco shop. PRTG does a really great job monitoring that. So what are some environmental things that get monitored with PRTG? Power supplies, right? So say you have an elementary school with a core switch that's responsible for running transport up to OSHEAN, Cox, Beacon, whatever. You can actually get alerted when a power supply gets unplugged, right? Say power supply B gets unplugged because or it loses power because it's plugged into a UPS that's faulty. You'll immediately know that happened. You have a fault in redundancy, right? But If you didn't run a network monitor, you would have absolutely no idea. Your internet would still be running up until the point that, say, you had a lapse in power from the other UPS. You get what I mean? So that's really important. You can also monitor your fans. You can also monitor PoE values as well with PRTG. I'm not sure about the HP Aruba situation. I can look into that. But I know Cisco, it's really quite great. You can even monitor individual VLAN traffic, which is really neat as well. I'll quickly show you guys an example of that. You can see VLAN 66 all the way over there on the right. That is our student wireless VLAN. So I can actually see the different bandwidth aggregated by our different networks here, which is really cool. I can say, hey, well, we're down on bandwidth, something's sucking it up in the environment. Hey, is it on our wired network on VLAN 10? Is it on VLAN 66 and its students? Is it coming from VLAN 5 or guest wireless? So you can actually divide and conquer and figure out where the bandwidth is being sucked up in your environment. And I'll go further into bandwidth.
How did you get to that level?
How did I get to that level?
Did you start there?
Do. Alright. You can literally just add the switch, put that community string in.
Yep.
And if you guys don't know what sensors to add, right click on the device and hit auto discover.
And the great thing about PRTG, like you can do a Zanex or something else, right? But with it, it comes with these packages and you just say deploy. And it will find it based on the OS firmware and all that other stuff. Find all these other things that automatically deploy as many as you want. At times you might have to curtail it.
Yes.
You might not care to monitor HTTP on your switch,
Yep.
so you just delete that sensor.
So, yeah, so that magic comes back to 1,000 things. How do you pick that I want to know, like, so you
Just
just
delete them.
list,
Just delete them. Do the
Yeah.
auto scan.
or
get
you
all your
just let it run
sensors.
for a while, look at some reports and there's interesting data, or you just, how do you just pick it?
I mean, it's over years you kind of figure that out, right? You figure out what is useful in your environment. But yeah, run auto discovery and delete what you don't use.
And in PRTG, if there's something you don't use, just grayed out, or you need to go back and rediscover it. Like, how's that?
What do you mean you don't use like this
So
sensor?
if you just pick these 40 things you want to watch, the other
Yes.
160, do you have to run a scan again, bring them down, and go through them again?
You can manually re-add what you want. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But you delete the sensors that you don't want to
Gotcha.
use. It doesn't keep graphing. Like I think I know where you're going.
Hidden or not turned on.
No, it's either there or it's
Okay.
not.
So maybe what he's asking is what are their greatest hits? You know, like what are the
What's
top
that?
12
like, what made you
things to be
think-
monitoring first before you, because if you're limited on the number of sensors you can run or want to run.
So PRTG.
What should you be
that's a
monitoring
good.
first?
That's yes. That question is phrased great. All right. So PRTG does actually label its sensors with a star rating, 1 to 5, for importance. So when you're adding a sensor, you can go through the sensor library and it will have a rating next to it. And it's a ballpark. It's whatever the PRTG engineers thought. But it's up to your network guy to kind of interpret that and figure it out. But yeah. So that's kind of the reasoning of the specific sensors that I have here. Let's see, what else did I miss? Voltages, let's see, that's another thing, and it's CPU utilization. If you guys have been unfortunate enough to witness a broadcast storm in your environment, or you have any kind of loops, or had a loop in your network at any one time, you know that your CPU usage on your switch goes to the moon. You can monitor CPU usage of your switch, RAM utilization, basic stuff like that. What else am I missing?
I mean, it's also automated, so it'll tell you abnormalities.
Yes,
right? So you don't have to
exactly.
be there looking at it. It'll actually tell you this is an unusual thing.
Yes, yeah, that's
Right,
right.
so if it's like really low, that could be indicated that something else has happened, or maybe you're on vacation that week, and certain Wi-Fi shouldn't be up. Or if it's being hammered, that's
Exactly.
an abnormality.
Exactly, and you can see this screenshot was taken at night. Obviously, these numbers are a whole lot higher during the day, in megabits here. So this unusual sign right here is, I would have to see the exact alert, but it's probably saying, hey, this traffic is a little low for this time of the day. So it does, again, grasp abnormalities, and that's what it's showing right here. Oh, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
That's good.
But yeah. Bandwidth monitoring. This is really great. A lot of you guys have managed VDOMs from OSHEAN, I would imagine. So you can monitor your bandwidth from the VDOM side. I'm sure Brian can go into depth about that. But a lot of times that's aggregated bandwidth, right? So you can actually monitor from the port, right? You all know the Ethernet cable that goes loops over to Cox's equipment. You know, it's a really important cable that you don't want to unplug. Go ahead into PRTG and add a sensor for that port interface and monitor the bandwidth. So what do all these lines mean, right? This is Pontiac at high school. I think this is 2 days, I want to say. You can see kind of a blip at 1 a.m. That's our backups. That's a backup copy job at 5 a.m. And you can see right as we hit the school day, all the way to the moon, up to 640 meg. That's the high. You can actually see it labels it as max there. The white line is total aggregated bandwidth of the interface. Again, a lot of us are dealing with 1 gig interfaces, I would assume. So that's the aggregated upload and download. Obviously, we know that our download speeds we use download a whole lot more than we use upload in an environment normally. The blue line is download. You can see a graph there. It's just below the total bandwidth. And then the pink line is traffic out or upload. So really neat and quite useful. Internet connectivity. Again, you can pick any website that you want to monitor here. In this case, it's just Google.com that I added to our PRTG core server. And every 30 seconds, our PRTG server pings. And the ping sensor is a lot more complicated and actually aggregates a lot more data than you would think. It does minimum latency, maximum latency, average. It also does packet loss, which is pretty neat as well. You can see a little, like every once in a while, there's a little bump in our latency. You can see that packet loss sensor goes off right here, which is kind of neat as well. Let's see, certificate management. Everybody is responsible for some form of SSL certificate, whether it be their website, their VPN, whatever else, right? Everybody manages their own SSL certificates, I would assume. So this sensor is our Sonic Wall VPN that we run here. We have it set for a 90-day expiry, I want to say. Yep, it says 89 days there. You can see it's almost like a staircase. Every single day, obviously, the certificate goes down in validity all the way to 28. At 28, I have a threshold set. It sends me an email that says, hey idiot, renew the certificate before it expires. And I do that. It goes all the way back up to 89. So you can keep an eye on your certificates. This could be anything. You can even monitor the certificate validity of Google.com if you wanted to. Anything that's public. But again, we're responsible for renewing our VPN certificate. So yeah, really neat. That's what that sensor looks like in PRTG. And I asked the question, has anyone had an SSL certificate expire in their environment and have to go run off and fix it? Yeah, we've all seen, at least if it wasn't us, it was somebody else, someone else's website had an SSL certificate that expired.
Increase the best question
Yeah.
that sensor itself can be used for any software.
Any software? Yes.
Outside of SSL, you can use it for
Correct.
any
Anything that has an IP
subscription,
address.
right?
Anything you want. Yeah, you could even monitor self-signed certificates for a firewall if you wanted to. Anything you want, just plug in an IP address and go. So we use this one. It's really important to me, so I don't have to set a Google Calendar reminder every single time I reset. I renew the certificate for Sonic Wall and whatever else. So it works really great. That's a really useful sensor for me. Notification triggers. So you don't just configure PRTG and not configure your triggers. So obviously, we are Gloucester Regional Schools. It's a long story, but we have Gloucester schools, and then we have the region. So we actually have PRTG kind of segmented, almost like an OU structure in your Active Directory to send notifications to different members of people. So we have West Gloucester Elementary School and Fogarty Elementary Schools. They actually have their IT department or their IT support, let's say, is from Gloucester Police. We help them, but we're not the end all be all. We're not there all the time. So we actually configure different triggers to send emails and notifications to different groups. You can see the Gloucester Schools groups at the top right there. That's going to like NAF4 and everybody on the Gloucester Police side. So they can be aware of just what's going on in their environment. That way you don't set up the server, you don't change any of your triggers, you keep everything default, you dump everyone into a primary group. Don't do that, because you'll get a lot of people that are getting notifications for things they're not even responsible for. So you have a lot of configuration in PRTG to go down from like at an OU level, an OU or a group level, to go in there and configure. You can even set your state triggers. So how long do you want to wait before you put the sensor into a down status and get an email? Do you want to wait 60 seconds? Do you want to wait 900 seconds? How long do you want to wait until the sensor goes to a warning state? We have all that configuration. You can do that again at the OU or the group level inside of PRTG, which is really neat.
I'm gonna ask you a question.
Yeah, what's up?
I'm full with that.
Yeah, what's up?
But is there a profile that once you have a trigger set, you want to clone those triggers to other sensors?
Yes.
You do it.
Yes, and again, you do it at the OU level. So everything that falls under it
Will follow
falls
the
in, just
same.
inheritance throughout the entire thing. It's just like Active Directory, guys, super simple. Super simple. Especially when you get your, you're working on group policies and everything like that, it's exactly the same. So,
And you can have multiple triggers per sensor, so.
yes.
Different recordings.
Yes, exactly. All right, so if you guys have service level agreements that you've made inside your own departments, good for you. We don't really, but I like to keep an eye on things and send myself some daily reports. This is actually a bandwidth report for Pontiac High and Middle School. These are actually two separate PDFs that are sent to me daily, just kind of giving me an outlook on, hey, how much bandwidth did we use in the last day? And it'll actually tell me the aggregated bandwidth for Pontiac Middle School. So we can say, this is February 14th. We used a total of 474 gigabytes aggregated through our WANG interface, going out to, I believe, OSHEAN and Pontiac Middle School. Same thing for Pontiac High School. Look at the difference in bandwidth, or in utilization here. 474 gigabytes in one day. Look at the high school. That's 1.7 terabytes going to our high school. We use a lot of bandwidth here.
How many students?
How many students in our high school?
96.
96.
And 100 staff.
So, really nice thing. You send out reports to yourself, whether you're the IT director or you're the network administrator, you want to keep an eye on things, which is really quite neat. All right, continue here. Again, uptime sensors. We had a long conversation about uptime sensors, which is really neat here. You can send yourself a daily email that will actually list all of your network devices from top down, actually listing from the lowest uptime to the highest uptime. So why would you want to see that? Let's say a switch rebooted last night and the uptime reset on the switch. You get an email the next day saying, hey, the switch just went from 43 days of uptime down to 0. I should probably look into that switch, the power in that room, the connectivity, the interfaces resolved with the switch. You should probably take a look into it. So again, kind of a proactive look into the environment. And here's a look of ping, the same kind of downtime report here, but with ping. You can see this switch at the bottom here was not up for 100% during the period of running this report. You can see it's 99.974% right there. You can see it's PHS 365 IPC. If you guys remember, I was showing you a UPS from Closet 365 at the beginning of this presentation. I actually had to go in and replace the UPS in that closet because it was faulty. PRTG alerted me of that, and I was able to respond proactively and replace it before it impacted teaching environment. Get my drift there. And obviously, we have 9300s throughout our entire school here, so they are redundant power supply. This is a 3750 switch, as many of you guys know, unless you have the 3750X, they're not redundant power supply. So I had to unplug it, plug it into the new unit.
UPS failed Friday night.
Yes.
Vacation.
Yes. So.
I'm more impressed you have the budget to replace
No.
it.
Batteries.
We replaced the
Batteries, just the batteries.
Yes, exactly, right. All right, and this is what the report looks like being sent from your PRTG server. In my case, I have it sent out 7 a.m. every single day to me, just saying, hey, this is our uptime report, here's our bandwidth report, take a look into it, and just keep an eye on your environment without having to go through your entire PRTG environment. You can only see your segmented important stuff that you've configured in your report. Maps. Maps are really cool. You can design these inside of PRTG. You can see, when you start up PRTG, you'll have this thing called the PRTG desktop application, which will connect to the server, and it will give you what's called a sunburst. You can see the sunburst map over in the lower right-hand corner. That's what you'll normally be looking at in a graphical look into PRTG, which is really neat. So I have it set up here almost like you're playing a video game. You've got everything kind of segmented up on the screen here. So these are sunbursts, including all of our switches, our servers, our UPSs, and then some important things like how much bandwidth are we using at Pontiac High School? What's our internet connectivity like? We've just lost internet. I want to be able to look up on the TV in our office and say, hey, the sensor dropped out. We have no connectivity to the internet. We're probably going to start getting calls and bad things are going to start happening. Uptime. But again, yeah, you can segment that environment out and kind of blow it out into different types of maps and everything, which is really neat. Network maps. Everybody loves using Visio, Rhode, and all these different things to make static maps of your network environment. With PRTG, you can actually make a network map that is live. So these links, if this switch stack goes down, this 130 left right here, and it loses connectivity to 222, this link will go red. So you have an actual active representation of the network environment, and it's just built through relativity through the PRTG server. You can see this is kind of a basic layout. I know there's some devices missing, but you can see everything kind of going back to our core stack going up, and then that's our 48 firewall, on OSHEAN. And then we have some things running on AWS. We have some Google sensors as well, so just kind of a layout for the high school network here. Custom sensors, you can code your own sensors, which is really, really neat. At Pontiac High and Middle School, we use dollar radius servers. I don't know if Jimmy or anybody has gotten dollar radius servers set up at their schools. I'm sure they have. At the high school, we have I can't say it's multi-master replication between our high school and middle school locations. So if we add a network device here, it gets transported through SQL over to our middle school. So devices here that are added can also be provisioned into the middle school as well. So in doing that, we have SQL replication running. So that SQL replication has broken in the past, and I've had to resync the servers, which is really not fun. But I actually wrote just a simple SQL file here to just return a 1 if the replication status is running. And all that does is it tells PRTG, hey, my replication status is 1, I'm green, I'm happy, I'm good to go. And if not, you can see else, no, end as result. That's it. It's just a simple SQL query to say, hey, is replication running on me? Yeah, it's running just fine. So just an example. And you can do a bunch of different things. You could do PowerShell, you could do Python, you could do Java, an API if you choose. Really, really, really versatile. You can make your own stuff. How well does it work? You're going to be really surprised what we run PRTG on at the end of this presentation when I tell you. We've used it since 2020. It's worked really, really well. It's been really bulletproof. We get periodic updates to the server every once in a while. Those updates go through just fine. Again, it's really easy to use. If you guys want to set up something in your own environment and you want myself to take a look at it, it literally takes you probably about 30 minutes to set up a network monitor on your own location, right? Choose the desktop of your choice. Yeah, I'm saying desktop, like a junk Dell desktop. Maybe something that's a little bit on the newer side, but you're like, well, why are you going to use that? It's going to fail, okay? You can easily do backups at PRTG. There's a database on the back, just do a backup of it. Just send it to an SMP share or whatever you want on your environment. Or you can get it hosted on AWS. I know there was somebody who was, or did get hosted on AWS. It's publicly, it will monitor public devices, but it will also monitor your private environment as well if you install Pro. But at that point, why don't you just run your own device for all school districts while trying to save money? Just pick a desktop. We run our PRTG server, and we have run it on since 2020 an Optiplex 3050 with an SSD. It hasn't gone down. I'm not really worried if the SSD fails inside of it because the next day I'll just take another desktop out, take the most recent backup, restore it, and odds are on we're good to go. So you don't need a $30,000 server. You don't need AWS to host it. You have the option to. You could do it if you're not interested, but just run it on your own desktop.
I think PRTG offers a service, right?
Yes, for AWS. Yeah.
Yes, it's 10 grand to start.
Yes,
It's not cheap at all.
10 grand?
10 grand, so even with the RISD contracts or swell or anything like that, and minimum is 10 grand for 5,000 licenses. So we looked into it, because for, I was gonna ask a random question about redundancy and having 2 of them working together, because if my WAN goes down in my high school, I can't monitor any other sites, because they're not connecting. Now, if it was hosted, they all be firing out.
You want a multi-probe environment.
So, that's unnecessary.
That's 10 grand just to get out of the gate?
Yeah.
And then subscription after
10 grand.
a year?
Not worth it.
It's not
Desktop.
cheap.
Or business?
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
Yeah.
Internally, it's about 3,300 for me, 5,000 sensors.
Yeah, so what would be the cost of the
So,
control?
if you want to use, if you can use 5,000 sensors, then use it. We only run about 400 here, roughly.
My other question too is that based on the sensor you use requires more CPU utilization and the server time to install the rollback. So you're doing WMI for your Windows servers
Yes.
and that stuff, it's
Yes,
slow. You're
the roll
monitoring
time,
vScan, it'll have a red bar be over here, it'll actually warn you like, hey, too much resources are being used. So
Yep.
we haven't got to the point of like deploying remote probes and then having redundant ones yet. Those are just simple set on time to know that stuff through. But that's where we are going through the saturation. We have 5K sensors, but we're buying HP Central for a lot of the other reasons for it, and take those sensors off of it and go back to monitoring phone, ATAs.
Yeah, just stress off the server.
Yeah, hijack and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, that's really cool stuff.
Is it licensed by
sensor.
Instance, meaning, couldn't you have one server at the middle school, one server at the high school, and each one of them have 100 for free?
Yes.
I could put
You
one
could
in
do
each
each
school,
building.
and I just got 5 sites to look at to read reports and things.
Yep. There's nothing stopping you from doing
That's your free way around it. That's what we did that in Tiverton.
But it doesn't aggregate back to central licensing server. So each server would be, if
it.
you
It
need
would
to
be
go
its own environment.
We need to environment.
So like again, like you have a VDOM with OSHEAN, everything there is aggregated. If you're running multiple PRTG servers, you're gonna be responding. If something goes down, you're gonna have to say, oh, which location is that? Oh, it's this PRTG server, I'll spin it up, I'll look at it, whatever else. So
I mean,
it's a
I'm
little
lucky
bit-
enough to have 3 schools that are very well connected together.
Yeah.
So one could run all 3 of those.
Yeah.
But then the other 2 are remote from things and don't have any backup
Sure.
fiber or anything, so it's like, those I could do independent, but not
Yeah.
the champions of those places.
Exactly. I mean, we have 5 schools and we run one core server here, and that has been perfectly fine. I know it's not incredibly fault tolerant, it's making people like itch and everything, but it works just fine, to be honest with you. So, if you don't have anything, something is better than nothing, for sure. I'm gonna shoot some shots here. So you guys get change requests from OSHEAN, right? Every once in a while saying, hey, your managed firewall is going down or could go down for 2 minutes. This is actually one of those change requests going through and OSHAN cutting the internet to our school district for however long it takes for the phone update. I think that's about a 2-minute span right there. So PRTG is sensitive enough to actually see those things and alert move. And here you go, that's the email from that. Just pinging 8.8.8, just pinging Google with that sensor every 30 seconds, and you can see it failed a handful of times. But again, it is so sensitive that you will know before your people do.
You have to secure 30 seconds,
That is
You can do one, you can do.
is that the best
900.
kind of like, you should be 30,
No.
what do you
No.
run?
I'm running 30 because I have 5,000 sensors.
Right.
My
Yes.
server is overworked.
Exactly. That's the problem, is once you start
tweaking
putting
it,
everything to
figure it
30
all out,
seconds, yeah, once you start putting everything to 30 seconds, the server has to work a lot harder, and that opticlex 30-50.
right?
or whatever
Okay,
you're
so-
running on,
So that's
yeah.
when resources come in, so it would be your
Correct.
server.
Exactly, so if you have Cisco switching, right, and you know your switches take, I don't know, 5 minutes to reboot or whatever, set your scanning interval under 5 minutes. That way you're not pinging you're not utilizing all that, all that server stuff, you know what I mean? So just set accordingly. So, should I pay? We've been through this conversation before, you don't have to. Go ahead, fire up 5 servers individually at different locations. Ultimately, I don't think that that's really needed. I think one core server, I think the Cox infrastructure, at least that we're on here, the ring, is plenty reliable enough. Just run one server, just do something, get something out there. Again, it turns into freeware after 30 days. So you do start with like a big, insane license to start, and after 30 days, you get put down to 100 sensors, but you still have the full functionality. So you can use any type of sensor that you want. And if you don't really know that much about networking, you don't know what to do, or what sensor specifically to use, what's stopping you from just firing up a PRTG server and putting in 30 or 40 things? Just knowing the IP addresses of your things is the first start to unloading a server like that. Just use PIN. Just use PIN, just to get started. And then again, go ahead and look into what does it take to get SNMP working for those devices, and then start digging into those PRTG libraries like HP, Aruba, Cisco, whatever you want. Run the scan on it. It will tell you what it can monitor and what it can't. You'll be surprised what it might return. You might say, wow, my switch is running an HTTP server on it. There's a massive Cisco vulnerability a little while ago. I don't know if you guys were aware. Like Cisco 9300s, a lot of the older, it was a 0 day, so it was every firmware leading up, was really bad. So again, using, it actually will know more than you do. A lot of times, you'll be surprised. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I wanted to keep things kind of on the shorter side so we can dig into our environment if anybody's got any individual questions they want to look into everything. But I want to thank OSHEAN for giving me this time to speak in front of you all. I hope you guys learned something. And if there's any questions that you guys want to ask, Anna or throughout the next little while, we'll answer. Yeah.
Our system
What do you want?
map.
The map that we have in our office. Sure.
Live.
Live.
I have a question on the spot. So a sensor is defined as any device
No.
or protocols that
Whatever
you're,
you're using to monitor, so
so
it's
if
a
I'm
ping.
looking at something I can, so ping's a sensor,
Yes.
HTTP's a
Yes.
sensor.
Yes.
Some of them are packaged together.
Yeah.
So like Armong for my HP is one sensor collectively. APC is one sensor collectively, only if they provide that to you. If you want to be more granular, you have to deploy individual sensors, and that's when it starts flowing.
So say in bring it down to a smaller scale, in one school where you might have 8 switches, okay, how many things, how many sensors you think you're gonna use up if you wanted to be comprehensive or small, medium, large, I don't know, is there a recipe for it in terms of like what to start with and then move yourself up? And then what does it really cost to have 5,000?
$37.
How much?
$3,300.
3,300 a year?
But
Well,
you use, hang on a second, you use 5,000 sensors?
Yeah.
What do you
I monitor everything.
He's an admin.
Yeah,
Well,
you don't
yeah.
personally know me, but yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay.
He's probably monitoring your network. He can probably give us some info.
No,
He
I
does,
mean,
he does.
I'm doing crazy
Monitor
things,
costs
like I'm
as
monitoring
well.
every possible thing I can, because you can also have history prior to year. So like I have it on my VMware, I have snapshots, stuff like that, so, just deploy it somewhere else, but I monitor everything, so my my techs hate me, it's like I monitor my email alerts, right, like, so my biggest issue is figuring out, and I spend time to figure out, is remote probes at my sites, so that you can aggregate together, but then have a duplicate clone cluster. And I couldn't figure out the cluster, and I just kind of gave up in the moment. Because if my WAN goes down my high school, I couldn't monitor anything. So I wanted another cluster in my high school, my middle school. So I know that, okay, yeah, it's down, the WAN's down there, but my other schools are working.
Yep.
Because I also have all this stuff that goes to my high school,
So
like
is that,
phones and
is that
guys.
shortcoming in it right now in your design? Is that,
Oh, it sounds like his design is way more.
no, but
accomplished than ours.
yours, it's just, if you have, you link to down, you're dead, why can't, you have no vision into the.
Yes,
That's the biggest thing. If the WAN
Needs
goes
to
down,
report back.
and
correct.
that's the point, probably the hosted one, because you would presume that Amazon has better availability, right? You have your remote probes, but there is, if you buy it, you can cluster it, but the documentation at times for those more advanced things are shit. So, I
So,
haven't spent time to figure it out yet.
to address your concern about cost, when I looked at this a while back, I learned that no matter what vendor you look at, doesn't matter what vendor you look at, they're all gonna be doing something new to it. You're gonna pay the same amount of money, absolutely the same amount of money, that does not change. So one vendor will monitor ports, one vendor will monitor something else, another vendor will monitor something else under certain restrictions. It absolutely doesn't matter who they are,
okay,
you use about the same amount of money.
hang on, alright, so back to our part. So, yes, we pay for 500 sensors.
What's that?
Nowhere near that.
No.
1,200 bucks.
A year.
No, we bought multi-year. We bought multi-year.
That's like
Yeah.
$2,
That's not
250
bad.
cents, right? 500.
Sounds like that.
Let's look at price a
$1,500
little bit. I'm not
$3 a
trying to,
sensor.
I'm trying to show you what's possible. I'm not,
No,
I'm
no,
not
but
trying to sell you.
that's an annual cost,
Yeah.
$3 a sensor.
You don't, okay.
Is it Pesca? What's the name of the company you work for?
You're on the term, so
You got that.
sometimes it's hard talking to them.
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
busting this.
Yeah, no.
Let's go through let's see your dash. Let's
Yeah,
see what's
yeah,
going on.
So it was already in the presentation, but this is a live look into our environment. This is what I have running in our office, just to let us know what's going on. We immediately see the sunburst. Hey, is there something wrong with our switching environment, our servers, our UPSs? Again, it's really basic, but again, I try not to use more than I need here. So,
People think it's Ticketmaster for.
No, you walk in superintendent's here, wow.
So, yeah, you can make any type of map you want, just take a sensor, drag it onto the map, it's a little bit more involved, but again, like, a lot of us here, I know his monitoring environment, but a lot of us are just trying to get started.
Yeah.
Again, I would not, we all have different opinions on this, and we could talk to the cows come home, I think 500, depending on your school size, I don't know how many schools you guys are responsible for, we're responsible for 5. I think that our monitoring is fairly comprehensive in its means, and we use about 400 sensors.
So I'm on their
How
phones
many-
and stuff.
I was gonna say, how many schools do that?
The same amount.
5 and 5, 500, 5,000.
So, right, it depends on what you're really looking for in the granularity of your data, right? My biggest issue is, right, our switching is 10 to 15 years old, and we're having issues with PoE. Some ports or some places I decide to die.
I know exactly, so you're monitoring individual ports.
Yeah.
So
So I'm
doing
monitoring
48
port
sensors.
level.
Yep.
So each, if I have a,
Yep.
chassis of 300 ports, I'm monitoring all those ports.
Oh, yeah, you've got those, the blade style switches.
And have you picked up one before it was an issue? Like, has it worked?
I haven't been able to figure it out for it because you have to download a custom nib for HP, and then the issue is some vendors don't give you the right OID number, so you're scanning thousands of NSMPs, and I just gave up looking for it. So what I'm looking for now is power fluctuations at times. So I can say like,
See.
right, well then we move our WAPs, which are PoE, off that blade because we're gonna do a massive switch refresh and something.
Yes.
So I rather have all the data at my fingertips with 3300 than to like something happen and then I have to go do something.
Do you get to downgrade it at some point, like when you get those new switches,
You get
you're
better
able to go from 5,000 down to 2?
Yes, I am because I'm buying HP for Room Central because it also does other things that PRTG can't do, like firmware updates and monitoring of that.
Yeah, and guys, this isn't a one size fits all type of thing. You wanna have multiple styles of monitoring in your environment. Like, I want a super redundant PRTG environment. No. Run things like Kiwi for syslog, run whatever proprietary stuff that you need to run for your switching, have multiple layers of monitoring. Guys, don't let this be the end all be all. It's not everything.
Yeah. So the reason I was asking about your phones, are you monitoring your phones when they're offline and not offline? Do you?
Individual endpoints we're talking
Yeah.
about.
See, I do that for my laps, so I know definitively the second
What do
one
you have for
drops.
labs?
We have Blue Soccer right now, so it's just a thing.
Gotcha. So we have Meraki, so there's no reason for us to
Right,
have
so that's
sensors
what
for
you're
that.
saying.
Exactly. And yeah, again, just to kind of loop back with his environment, I could definitely see how he could utilize 5,000 sensors when you're dealing with X amount of switches times 48. Each one of those ports has a sensor associated with it.
And you
So
run your
more,
own,
right?
you run your own phone system like he does, right?
Yes, we do. We run Fort Voicer. So, yeah, I could easily get to that level of sensor count if I was monitoring every port in my environment. But yes, definitely has a reason to do it. So, just some explanation. But if you guys have good switching, like you have, I don't know, let's say 3750s, I think that's kind of the line forward. I don't think you need to worry about that.
Who sells it?
That's what we
They're reseller only, they're not sole source.
Right?
Yeah, no, they're not direct, so we ended up going through New Era at one time, which was like Access Business Solutions, I'm not sure if we still.
So the usual suspects, SHI, Envision, all those guys sell
I got it
it
from
to
CDW,
CDW
and actually, I paid $2,500 a year, not 30.
for 5,000.
So let's move into open discussion. I'll kind of get out of the front here and we can all kind of discuss.
Yeah, I mean, I'm nuts with my monitoring, because I just wanna be on top of everything.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just monitor your eye track or your eye SCSI and some basic stuff, like you'll get an immediate return on your investment. To deploy a small laptop, be easy enough.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, what is the ROI on this? What